the Hindu world. Me son name is Max Stein and me love video games.
I'm the Megabuck. I really love video games.
My name is Raph, and I also love video games.
And welcome to the Game Treasure Podcast, where we talk treasure video games from a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Or this one.
This week, Star Wars Outlaws has come out, but guess what? It came out as of the day of this recording, I believe. So we didn't have enough time to play it.
Sounds like it was too early anyway.
It cost $70,
Right, yeah.
and yeah, it sounds like it was a little too early, even if you bought it early.
That's sad.
Ouch. Yeah. Anyhow, so we figured, why don't we just talk about Star Wars games that we liked? Because spoilers, there's actually like over 100 of them.
11
So,
bajillion.
yeah,
A
I
lot.
didn't even
A
realize
lot's the
that. Anyhow, but before we get into that, there was actually a Nintendo Indie World Showcase. So we've got some
Video game news.
the Nintendo Indie Showcase. Many really cool indie drops. Top of my list, Balatro. Buck, did
Oh,
you see
yeah.
this?
No.
Yeah, I saw this.
Balatro is getting not one, not two, not three, but 4 DLCs that I
Yeah.
believe are out already.
Including a
It's-
Witcher one,
It's
right?
The Witcher 3,
Yeah.
Vampire Survivors,
Oh, they're themed.
Yeah.
Dave the Diver, and Among Us.
Nice.
Cool. So it's not like more cards, more jokers.
No, they
It's-
just themed the cards to look like. Well, I think there might be more Jokers that are themed based off of these.
Shit.
Like I think in the
I'm
Vampire
sure.
Survivors
Where's my
one,
Steam
there's
Deck?
something
My
that
tray is
know.
empty. Where is it?
Oh my god! As if this game couldn't get any more addictive, they put out a Vampire Survivors DLC, which is dangerous.
Is it all
That's-
cosmetic?
It's yeah, I believe that is also cosmetic. It's Vampire Survivors,
Like
one of my one
card
of the best
backs?
single input
Particle
games of
effects
all
on the
time.
board or something?
Yeah, I believe
Yeah,
it's like
right,
just
yeah.
basically like I said, it changes the decks to like the kings look like the vampires from Vampire Survivors, and then there's
Oh,
a Joker
fun.
that
I still gotta
adds,
get
like
on
a,
Balatro.
oh man, it's so fucking good.
I know.
There's
Doing
a
with your
new-
life.
I know, right? I know.
New Coffee Talk Tokyo.
Oh, cute.
Looks cute. They
sequel?
look. It's a, I guess, yeah, it's a sequel, or isn't this the 3rd game in the series?
Well, that guy passed away, right?
I
oh
think
my
so.
gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. The like main
would-
developer of it. Yeah.
It looks different. I was
Mhm.
gonna say they're the. That's interesting that you say that. It looks different. The a little bit different graphical style, and the field of view is wider.
Hmm.
That was my first thing I noticed. You know how that game's normally a real intimate, like talking game. It was
Yeah.
like pull
I
up the
played
camera.
I played Valhalla and I played the Cyber Bartender and all that. So, yeah.
Normally they're set up in like a 2-shot. This one was like a wide shot. It was interesting. Sea of Stars had a little bit of teaser for their new DLC, The Throes of the Watchmaker.
Yeah. New character because it's
Oh.
a
New
it's like a
character.
new dungeon.
New dungeon. I think. Remember earlier this year we saw that tease where they were going to make a multiplayer.
Mhm.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
where
Part
two
of it
peop-
too, yeah.
I think that's going to be part of it. And yeah, they're adding the new character who looks like Robo. He's just a robot.
It looks like it'll be part of that theme of like that dungeon,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
He's like
Just
a
out of
cool
curiosity, because,
crystal-powered
like,
robot.
I picked up that physical that came out for the Switch, and I wonder if that's going to be like, are they going to be updating it across all platforms, even like the limited run sort of deal? Are they going to update it across the board?
You mean the physical? Will it include
Yeah,
it on
right.
the
Yeah. You
cart
think
kinda
I'll be
thing?
able to buy the DSC? Yeah.
You can add it onto your game, I'm sure.
sure
yeah,
you can.
absolutely.
Sure,
okay, all
It's
right.
a
But
video game,
when
for
it goes
Christ's sake.
away, it goes away.
Power Wash Simulators, getting Shrek Swamp.
Wait, come again?
Get out of my swamp! Don't
all the you're like cleaning it for Shrek. So instead of cleaning up shit, you're like
This
cleaning off
doesn't-
rainbows.
This doesn't. Oh,
You're
okay.
like spraying off
perfect.
rainbows.
Oh,
to-
I was gonna
to
say this
make the
doesn't seem
swamp
like
dirty.
something that Shrek would want. He wouldn't
Aha,
want to
the
clean.
wanna make it
geniuses
clever.
over at Power Wash
That's
Simulator. First they give you
clever.
Warhammer 40K, and now
Yeah.
Shrek.
It's almost
God,
like
they're
they've
fucking
seen
Fuck
Shrek.
yeah, man.
all fucking dingers. Anyhow, Annapurna's Morsels. Did you see this?
No,
Google it.
No.
Google
What's
it. Hey,
Annapurna's
Morsels.
what?
I mean, I
game.
like just about anything that Annapurna
It
Interactive
looks
does.
like crazy, trippy, yucky body horror Pokemon.
Okay.
Like it's like a top-down dungeon crawler kind of thing, like we're used to with Hades or
Oh, okay.
like I've been playing Cult of the Lamb again. But it's you collect morsels who are these like little gross. They remind me of like one of those nasty Cabbage Patch Kids from the 90s. You know what I'm talking about,
You
Buck?
Garbage Pail Kids.
Oh, the
They remind
Garbage
me
Pail
of.
Kids.
They've got huge Garbage Pail Kids vibes. Like it's
that logo certainly does.
yes, it's all they're all gross and
So
lumpy
funny.
and
They re-released a
wet-looking.
bunch of those Garbage Pail Kids as stickers, and our buddy Jimmy got us a bunch, and I have them on the side of my fridge because they made newer ones. Like I have one
Yeah.
called like her name's Resident Ava, and it's supposed to be Mila Jovovich's character from like the first Resident Evil movie, all like cut up by the lasers and stuff.
You play as a mouse that's like fighting cats.
One of
And
these
then you're collecting
characters is
the
just a
stuff.
tumor-ridden nose.
Yeah.
It's just like covered in tumors.
Metal Slug Tactics is not a
Yeah.
myth. I have seen
Yeah.
it. It was
Yeah.
there. So
That's cool.
that is still coming out. Thank
Excited about that
goodness.
one.
It looks awesome. Pizza Tower is coming to Switch. Have any of you guys played Pizza Tower?
No,
I've
never.
I have
That's
not
that
played it. I've seen it.
Wario land like where you're fucking moving at a million miles per hour, but the whole thing looks like Ren and Stimpy. It looks
Yes.
really fucking cool. I still have not bought it, but I feel like Switch would be a great because I don't have a Steam Deck, so Switch would be a great place to play it. Sit on the couch and play that mindless ass game where you don't need much screen because it's super wide and you're just running from
Mhm.
left to right.
Mhm.
Digital Eclipse, the people that made that Atari 50 thing,
Mhm.
are making one for Tetris.
Oh, nice.
Fucking, it's called Tetris Forever. Look it up. It's awesome.
Oh,
It's
that's
got a
cool.
million different versions of Tetris in it, and it includes all of that museum shit like they did for Atari 50.
Cool.
So
That's cool.
And there's like new versions of Tetris on there as well that I can't remember, or something like some version of Tetris that was lost to time is on there.
Game I actually want to play.
Right. I'd love more of these, please. I want to get the Atari 50.
That's
This
cool.
is a really brilliant idea. Capcom Fighting Collection is coming to Switch. The
Dude.
Capcom Fighting Collection 2
Mhm.
is coming to Switch.
And the
as
only
well.
game on that thing that sucks is Fighting Jam. Everything else is amazing.
It's got Power Stone on it. It's
1
got
and 2.
Capcom vs SNK 1 and 2 on it, and I think Chaos in there
Yeah, for some reason.
or something like that, and a bunch of the 3D Capcom
Project Justice.
Yes.
Project Justice, the second Rival Schools game.
Yes, with the guy with the laser sword who is like featured in Marvel vs. Capcom, and you're like,
Oh,
"Ooh,
that's
that guy."
Hayato. That's a different game. That's Star Gladiator or something like that.
Whatever
Is the
it
name of
is.
one of those.
You can play it now because
That's
I wouldn't
super
know how to play it or where to play it.
Yeah.
Wasn't that
that's-
Castlevania collection also announced on that? And then it
Castlevania
just straight up
DS
released?
collection. It just came out as soon as they announced it. Buck got it, right? You've been playing it.
I already beat the Haunted Castle Revisited, and I'm already like an hour or two into Order of Ecclesia.
Haunted
playing that
Castle is the thing I wanted to talk about because you talked about it yesterday on our live stream, which we're going to start doing on Thursdays. And explain it again real quick because I had never heard of it until I saw it on this trailer, and then I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, right about the same time that they made the first Castlevania for the NES, they wanted to have an arcade Castlevania, so they made a game called Haunted Castle. It is a Castlevania game through and through. You play as the Simon Belmont character. The premise is more like the premise of Ghosts and Goblins, like Dracula shows up and steals your newly wedded bride or whatever. But the game itself originally was already pretty gorgeous as an arcade port. This is one of those kind of revamps where they redrew all the sprites and redid them all. And it's just between that and like, all the indie games nowadays have all those great particle effects and the
Right.
bosses are big and all that. That game has all those things in it. Like there's this giant golem where his hands take up like the whole screen and the gem is moving around that you have to hit. And this is a Castlevania game we're talking about.
It looks awesome.
One of the craziest
sprite
things
is
to me,
huge.
yes, and one of the craziest things was in the controls. It still blew my mind because even from Castlevania all the way up to Super Castlevania 4, you can't change directions mid jump, and you can
Right.
in this game.
Wow.
And
that's
my
honestly
brain
would
was
make
just
it
like-
so much easier to play.
But all I could think of too was like for the NES and Super Castlevania 4 was
Why couldn't
wouldn't they let us do? And they handled
Not enough memory.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You would love it because they handled stairs the way they should have handled stairs in every Castlevania
Oh,
game.
thank
How's that?
God.
There's never a position where like you can mess up and miss the stairs and fall and hurt yourself or kill yourself or whatever else.
Good.
They're always treated more like an inclined hill than actual stairs when you use them. So
Hmm.
there's never like I missed get on climb up, no, down, and the enemy hits you.
I mean,
kills you.
honestly, what always killed me about the stairs in Castlevania games is that you can't jump while you're on them. That
You could
always
starting
messed
in
me up.
4 in the fourth
Yeah.
one, I think,
Right.
in Super Castlevania. But yeah, still can't.
Damn, it sounds like Castlevania
blast.
fans are getting a full dinner, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Dude,
Yeah.
it made me
All
go
those
back and
DS
look.
ones are so good.
It made me go back and look. Those DS ones. You want to talk about how well were we eating in the aughts?
Right,
Those 3
yeah.
DS ones came out in 05, 06, and 08.
Damn.
Hell of
All
a
three of
time.
those came out within like
What's
3.5
the one-
years of each other.
With the character with the white hair. That's the one I want to replay
That's
so
Soma
badly.
Cruz in let me see, Portrait of Ruin was the one, and Order of Ecclesia is the other, and the third one, Dawn of Sorrow. It's the
Dawn
sequel
of
to Aria of
Sorrow.
Sorrow.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
that one.
is
That one's got a
worth
great
it
backstory
alone.
too. You're basically resurrect. You're like a reincarnation of Dracula, and you have all these powers. That's why you can absorb all these things, but you're trying to stop other
So
forces
fucking
instead.
cool. I love you,
That one's
Nintendo.
great. Too.
Finally, the last thing I wanted to mention is that there's a Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remaster on the way.
Suikoden, nice.
Yes, dude. Suikoden 2, one of the most famous JRPGs of all time. I think a sealed copy of it goes on eBay for like $1,000 or something. I don't even know. You know what I mean? Like
Sounds about right.
You can play as like 100 bazillion characters in the game because you can recruit every single NPC basically that you can talk to.
I think there are over
in it.
100 characters
Wow.
in the first
It's-
Suikoden.
It was groundbreaking back then, and people still love it now. And so now it's getting an up-res, and I'm so excited to see it.
Absolutely.
It looks fantastic, but
That's worth owning too, because when it's a game like that, the original is good, but there's usually quality of life updates in a remaster like
Yeah,
that
of
that make
course,
it
yeah.
go, oh man, this is not only is this good, but this is now palatable in like today's gameplay mechanic worlds of like the Dominus collection has that rewind feature.
I think this has like the battle speed ups thing and like the auto, like what you can basically set what you want your guys to do, so you don't have to. You got to do some grinding maybe in this JRPG, and you don't want to have to go into every level and have to pick attack. And so that's precisely
It's a
correct.
JRPG. Grind is the name of the game, right?
Right.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
So these quality of life improvements will make playing Suikoden 2 and getting the 100 plus characters much easier.
Badass.
Anyhow,
That's awesome.
let's move on
stuff.
from the news of now, for I wish to venture into the past. The Mega Buck and RetroGameTreasure.com are going to take us back in time with this week's Retro Zone. Buck, please hit me.
I like how these sound now. Back in time. I'm gonna make the man auto-tune for real.
Yeah.
I bought a great one today. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but your 9-year-old mind, I'm sure, exploded when you heard about Pokemon Stadium for the Nintendo 64.
Woo! Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a mic clipper. Woo!
Yeah, sorry. Woo, man, that's a good game
It's
right
that
there.
good of a game.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
more
yeah,
so
yeah.
you're on the money with. I absolutely did shit myself when when seeing this game. I probably in a Nintendo Power that you had
absolutely.
the subscription to, Buck.
That's actually what I was gonna say. I
Yeah.
saw this. I saw a cover of Nintendo Power that had this game on the front, and I
My
flipped
Blastoise
the
is
fuck out of it.
3D.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
More importantly, the best thing about this game, there was a way to link.
There was
to
a Game Boy
upload your
There's a Game Boy Transfer Pack add-on that plugged
Yes.
into the
Controller,
memory
right?
card /
Oh, the
Rumble
memory
port
card.
pack
Right.
on the
Yeah.
N64 controller, and you could plug your blue, red, yellow into it and bring your Pokemon on over. They made the second one over here as well too, that you could bring over some of the second gen stuff.
Right.
In Japan, they made a gold and silver. They made a third one of these in Japan, and you could
I didn't
bring
know
your
that.
gold and silver Pokemon over to that one too. That would have been Pokemon Stadium 3. We technically didn't get anything till Coliseum for the Cube, I think.
There was a way to run through you could do a quick battle and you just get like really basic weak ass Pokemon that sucked. Or there was like story mode, I think, that you could go through, if I remember correctly, where you could gain some, but it was you had to import your own Pokemon. Not only was that like pretty much the only way to beat the harder ends of the game, but it was just so satisfying to. At this point, everything's on the Game Boy. I don't think the Game Boy Advance is out yet, and so the renderings of the Pokemon that we have seen thus far in our lives have been so simple.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've looked at the Pokemon from Red and Blue recently, but they're archaic drawings.
They are, yeah, very basic looking. Yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Not that the designs are bad. The designs are classic, but I'm just saying the renderings themselves look like. A little bit, some of them. They'll be like, you'll find like Slowpoke or something. And you're like, his face looks fucked up in this version. You know what I mean?
I kind of like the way the Ghastly looked in those old games, though. They were kind of cool. Yeah.
And so then this comes out, and there's 3D models of all the fucking Pokemon, all 151 of them, and it was just like, oh dear God. I don't remember if this had to have been after Smash Brothers, right?
I
That's a
want
good
to say
question.
yes.
Because I
We've been
feel
right
like
what about the same time?
I
I
want
think
Yeah,
this might have
right,
been
yeah.
90. Yeah, I think it might have been the year after.
This is
later
the
that year.
Smash, like I think Pokemon Snap came out around the same time too.
that's
and
what I
like
was
all the
just about to
this,
say.
yeah.
What I'm getting at is I wonder if they like made all those models and they were like, fuck it.
Oh,
Let's just
yeah.
make, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Let's
for
just
Bunch
make
sure.
of
a
3D games, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, for sure.
One of the
The-
other things. Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say one of the other things of note in this game, besides the regular Pokemon battling, is the mini games.
You said exactly what I was about to say. Yeah. The mini games were probably my favorite part. You know, it's the party game, you know? It's good.
There was off the top of my head, the one I remember most is the Lickitung one.
With the sushi, yes. That's a great mini game. I love that.
It's
so
like
funny.
you're in the center of a rotating sushi bar, and there's like sushi that is of greater or lesser value, and then I think there's something that like makes you sick too, or like it's
Yes.
too much wasabi, and it'll make you like. But it's just like a little
Yes.
Mario Party style mini game where you use the very suggestive Pokemon Lickitung to take
Which is
some
so funny
sushi.
because you played this a lot more than I did because it was more to your age demographic.
Yeah.
I of course checked it out because I still liked Pokemon and played it on my Game Boy. But I distinctly remember you and our cousin playing this game while I was hanging out in a hot tub with my girlfriend. So priorities had changed a little bit for me.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
By the
Right,
time
I'm
the
sure,
N64 ad came out, like, yeah, get that Blastoise. I'll get that booby.
I
Yeah,
remember
right.
there was a. There's also like it was basically like a bunch of Game and Watch games actually now that I'm looking at it really.
Yeah.
I mean there's like when you race a bunch of Rat-a-tats on a treadmill.
Yes,
That was
I do
cute and
remember
you
that
just
one. That was
jump
great.
over the obstacles and stuff.
The one where you throw the e-cans the ring toss basically onto a bunch of dig dugs.
Oh man.
Or
I forgot about
Diglets. I mean,
Diglets, yes.
Diglets,
And then there's a
obviously.
drowsy one.
Showed my
I'm
age.
looking at it
That's
right
funny.
now. I don't remember this one, but I think it looks like a timing game of some sort.
Which one was that?
You're drowsy. It's 4 drowsies.
Is that the Snore War? Right?
Must be. I would
Yeah. No,
assume.
I'm looking at a list right now. I think it is. That one's hard as hell. I remember that one. You had to like time the like rotation of like the little coin that he uses to hypnotize, and yeah, it was a difficult one. There's a couple of them that were really hard.
The magic cart jumping one is hilarious.
Yes.
It was a timing game, and you had to try to see who could get the most giant magic
floppiest
cart
magic
jumps. Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Sand shoe digging. There's a Clefairy, basically hell divers simulator.
What?
There's a mini game where you play as Clefairy. Yeah. You got to do a little Helldivers command call. Right, down, left, up.
For a second there, I was like,
Way before
Clefairy
that.
infiltrating a drop zone and shooting people? Like,
And
is
then
that
the
what
one
you're
where you play as the bug Pokemon and you harden before the stones hit you. Like you have to
I
press
Metapod,
harden.
yeah.
Right
Yeah,
before they
Metapod,
hit you so that they don't kill you.
So one of the most uniquely interesting things about this cart is also one of the worst things about retro game carts. Nobody likes it when a kid writes their name on a game, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
they write it in marker and you're like, oh, cool. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that Stevie wrote his name on this in Sharpie. And all of us
Yeah.
retro gamers have learned a bunch of ways to get rid of those too. This game actually encouraged you to write it directly on the cartridge.
Oh,
yes,
no.
that's right. I think mine
Right on
had
the
one.
label.
I
Right
think I
on the
did that.
label with a small area that says this game
Yes.
pack belongs to.
Yes.
And it's like every 2/3 of these that we get in have some kid's name written in those. And it is so difficult to get pen or Sharpie out of a label without ruining it.
Mine was
hilarious.
probably one of those because I remember having my shitty 8th grade handwriting on on
Good job,
my card.
Raphael.
Yeah. Yes. If you find one that says Raphael and it looks like shit, that's me.
Absolutely did not do that in our house. Absolutely 100% not.
Yeah.
No fucking way. That's so
No.
funny. I did not know that.
Yeah.
What do your preferences have to be to get Pokemon Stadium? It's not a fighting game, but you do battle. It's a Pokemon game, but not really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not an RPG. It's more of we have a category for strategy games,
Okay.
which includes games like this, anything that's not an RPG but might be tactical or turn-based in this case, because a regular Pokemon game would be an RPG, obviously.
Mhm.
Right.
But we know that Pokemon is a niche hobby. Well, it's a huge niche hobby now, but my point being is that you really either like Pokemon or you don't like Pokemon. And so we have a bunch of like sub-genre choices you can make. You've heard me talk about before, like fantasy, sci-fi, superheroes, wrestling. Pokemon is actually one of these subgenres
Wow.
because there's so many like Pokemon and Digimon and things like that fall into a similar category that we kind of can align that with your likes too. But basically, if you don't like Pokemon games and you don't select Pokemon, you'll never get any Pokemon or Pokemon adjacent game from us. Whereas if you do, it opens up the well for a bunch of those.
Because there's so many different like dungeon crawlers and puzzle games and cooking
Pokemon
games.
Pinball.
Right.
Yeah.
I used
So
to have
that
Pokemon
actually
Pinball.
is a kind of a great segue. We're going to take a quick break and then talk about another IP that has games of basically every genre type within it. We're going to talk about Star Wars whenever we come back from our break. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back and we're here to talk about See, we can't pay for the license, so I can't play it. So if we could just all do it together. That was perfect. All right, so we're here to talk
Reminds me of that episode of Whitest Kids You Know with John Williams.
I thought I'd just give our listeners a little bit of ear poison for their morning drive to work or the dishes. So first of all, you guys, what do you have on a scale of 0 to 10? How much do you guys fuck with Star Wars?
The overall universe or just
overall?
Game? Raph?
Me? Oh man. Okay, so I have loved Star Wars since I was a young boy. My brother-in-law owned the box set on VHS, and I straight up stole it from him. And I ended up with that, and I used to watch it any day that I had off from school.
Nice.
I was watching Star Wars. I love these movies. I've since kind of fallen off as a Star Wars fan. I don't really mess with it really as much anymore. But if I see a new Star Wars game, I give it a very, very strong consideration. This day. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have never. You'd obviously say that most people would say I'm either a Star Wars or a Star Trek person because you usually have to like pick one.
I'm kind of both, but yeah,
I'm kind of both.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Star Wars movies are obviously better until like recently when some of the shows have been great, and Star Trek, a lot of these shows were better and the movies were always eh.
Yeah,
that's a good point. You got to go to Star Trek for the shows and go to
Yeah.
Star Wars for the movies.
Well, nowadays, honestly, everything that's not the Star Wars movies is kind of better than most of the Star Wars movies, especially the video games.
True.
But there's so much content now that Disney owns it that it's now hit or miss. Like it's not all great, but it's not all bad either.
For
me, I like The Mandalorian. It was good.
I think I saw the original trilogy first somehow, probably at like one of our uncle's houses.
I own it on VHS, so you could have watched it at home.
Yeah, but I was never really that crazy about it. I was the perfect age for episode 1 when it came out. Like I was like,
I saw that in theaters.
What did it
like
come
I saw
out
all
in
3 of the
99?
prequels.
Is that right?
So George Lucas hit the nail on the head with your age demographic. You were fine with Jar Jar Binks and pod racing.
I loved pod racing and Jar Jar Binks. Yeah.
But no, it was a perfect, absolutely fucking perfect time for me to receive those Star Warses. And then the new ones came out and I liked Force Awakens, and you know what, I liked the middle one whose name I don't remember.
Clone Wars.
I like that one too.
No, the
new
newest
ones,
trilogy.
Oh
the Sky not the Rise of Skywalker.
No, that's the last one, right?
Skywriting trilogy.
Obviously I didn't like it enough to remember its name, but I know people poo-pooed that one
in the middle.
The one in the middle that looked really good.
Was that The Last Jedi?
Yes, I think you might be right. Or unless that's the game. I don't know. Anyways, you know which one I'm talking about. It's the one with the fight scene in the all red room that is like the most stunning thing I've ever seen in any Star Wars movie. It alone was enough where I was like, well, this is cooler looking than anything I've ever seen in these films, because I'm not a huge sci-fi guy, and obviously it walks the line of sci-fi and fantasy, but I'm just saying I was never really I'm with Buck, where I was just like, Star Wars is pretty cool, but I like pod racing. Anyhow,
Jeebus.
According to Wikipedia, there have been over 100 different installments of Star Wars video games, starting all the way back in the 70s.
Yep.
So this franchise has been getting tapped for games about as early on as games have been existing. There are basically 3 main eras of Star Wars games. So there's the very, very early years in which they are just licensed random ass video games, And then in 1993, George Lucas starts LucasArts, because of course he does, because he loves being in control of everything that is Star Wars whenever possible. And then, of course, there's the acquisition to Electronic Arts in 2014. And they did the LucasArts and EA actually did a couple games together before that happened. So it seemed like he handed it over pretty easily. But those are the three main legs of the Star Wars video game universe, so to speak. But the first official licensed Star Wars electronic game was not a video game at all. It is this thing called the Kenner Tabletop Star Wars Electronic Battle Command. Do a Googling of the Star Wars Electronic Battle Command. I'll throw a picture up.
You said Kenner made it?
Kenner
Which makes
made
sense because Kenner had the toy license back then. So
they made the very very famous minifig Star Wars or whatever. So
I was a mask guy, so that was Kenner, I believe,
that's
also.
so true.
Yes, please.
But anyhow, this thing was more like one of those Tiger games, I believe. Like it was not really a computer game. It was like it's this little desktop thing that you would sort of play a very simple, very, very simple game on. But the actual first license released real video game
cartridge game,
was for the Atari 2600.
Yeah, that game came out in like 82.
Why did they
I think that game is as old as me.
Why did they skip A New Hope?
That's what I was gonna ask.
You know why? You saw the gameplay. Everybody just wanted to do the ice battle on Hoth and fight against the AT-ATs. They just wanted to toe cable the shit out of them. Look at it again. It's just like a Defender clone, but with Star Wars stuff.
I mean, honestly, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars movie. Like, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But
it was the easiest to translate. They were all out by then, except for Return of the Jedi, right? Wasn't that like 83?
Something like that, yeah.
And so it was the newest one to come out. So rather than going back to the first one, they were like, no, make it based on the one that like just came out most recently.
But yeah, that's basically the entirety of the gameplay is the snow speeders during the Battle of Hoth, destroying the AT-ATs. It's got that cool silhouette. It moves fast. The Atari's frame rate, you're smooth.
When you only have like 7 pixels on the screen, it's not too hard
to move them around, right?
Yeah. Very smooth frame rate.
It's okay. It just didn't age well. But back then, it was like the face that I just made on that too.
And a Return of the Jedi game comes out in 1983, where you control the Millennium Falcon on your mission to destroy the second Death Star. Mm-hmm. And then there's actually a game that I had never seen before, the Jedi Arena in 83. It's the first game to simulate a lightsaber battle.
It's so weird. It's got the top-down view, right?
Yeah.
Like
it looks a little more janky, like but I didn't know it existed.
It looks more like a digital version of like air hockey almost, but you like wave.
That's a good. Yeah, I believe you're. It's like based off of the training or whatever that like the helmet laser training thing. Star Wars, the first
shield.
Yeah,
it's weird.
I digress. Like we could talk about the history and the evolution of this game and then that one and that one. We just decided to go ahead and pick a couple games each to talk about. I wanted to start with the ones Raph picked because they're retro games. So
yes,
Raph, what Star Wars games have you brought for us today?
Well, the first Star Wars game that I ever played was Star Wars for the NES. This one, it was released in I think it was 1991, November 1991. It was developed by Lucasfilm and actually Beam Software, which I think we talked about in a previous episode. I can't remember which one, but Beam Software developed some other game that we talked about a while back.
The hard part to keep track of with these, especially Star Wars in particular, is like Max said, there's so many games.
Right, yeah.
There have been over 40 different developers involved in Star Wars games.
It's funny because looking at this, like,
good luck trying to get that straight.
It was released on several different platforms too. It was on the Game Boy, it was on the Game Gear as well, and this one had it had several publishers that released it, including Nintendo themselves, Capcom, and then the one that I own was published by JVC, which actually I saw the next game that I had, the SNES one, was also JVC.
This one looks awesome. For Nintendo, this looks fucking fabulous.
And it was a little later in the NES's
lifetime.
Right,
yes, exactly. It's honestly one of the best looking NES games that I've seen. And the music is really good too, especially when you get to the cantina. The cantina, it's playing that bum 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 bum.
Yeah, I heard you.
Whoa, stop, they're gonna sue us.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Stop at 20 seconds or else we're gonna get hit with the DMCA. But that, and then also Han Solo's theme. It's like one of my favorite songs songs that I've heard in any Star Wars game with that. Yeah, it sounds really cool. But man, dude, I was playing this game this morning just to kind of refresh my memory, and it is very hard. It's a tough game, and the beginning of it is very obtuse. It doesn't really tell you what to do because it's kind of like the exploration. You start off in a land speeder just on Tatooine, and it takes you just auto drives you right into a cave. You go through that cave, and I think in that cave you're able to find like, I think it was the lightsaber. You got to go through the cave, find the lightsaber, and there's a guy at the end of that map that just insta kills you if you're not careful. And you have to get the lightsaber. You go back and you can kill him. But then once you get out of the cave, you're just free to explore that area in the land speeder. It's like this top-down view from the land speeder. It's just in the desert.
Which is pretty cool.
Right, yeah, that was fun. It just was really confusing as a child. I had no idea where to go.
Thus begins a run of extremely difficult Star Wars games.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, just like moving forward, once you get to the cantina, it gets way more linear. You get to the cantina, you escape in the Millennium Falcon, and then you have this like brief first-person perspective sequence of the game where you're in the turret and you're shooting TIE fighters in space, which is kind of cool.
Inside the Millennium Falcon.
Right, exactly. And then you go to the Death Star, cool, and I never got past the Death Star. I was always stuck in the Death Star, and I never beat it.
For you, it was Star Wars, and for me, it was the first Ninja Turtles.
Right, yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's a cool game. It's just a little bit dated now. But
it's
the
cool.
next,
and the Death Star is a top-down like shmup. Like when you're doing the Death Star run, you're in
right.
You're in a X-wing.
Oh, that's the final part.
Yeah,
I'm talking
like
about when you actually get into the Death Star to save Leia. It's like the same sort of side-scrolling.
Side-scrolling bit. Yeah, sure.
I never got past that part. Like that shit was hard as hell.
You go. So that's cool that it's 4 different games in one. That was probably like a good ass value for fucking back then. You know what I mean? Like, Star Wars is 4 games in one.
That's a Star Wars thing though, because I know Rav hasn't gotten there yet, and we're going to talk about Super Star Wars, but it has the same kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually, honestly, good segue right into Super Star Wars, which I was playing last night.
Hard as balls.
2 a.m, and Buck, you mentioned the Sandcrawler, and I was like, this game is hard, but it's not that hard. And then I got to the Sandcrawler.
Then you got to level 3.
Dude, that Sandcrawler, I will say, I like this game. It's very, very hard. I didn't mention when it was released. It was actually released just a year after the NES version in 1992, and then in 1993 in Europe. I don't think it ever got a Japanese release date. But this game, I spent hours last night beating my head against the wall with that Sandcrawler. So I'm going to break down just what this level is. And
everything kills you. The end.
Yes, literally. Like you get to the Sandcrawler and you're walking along the Sandcrawler, which by the way looks fantastic. Yeah. It's just this enormous giant wall that you're climbing the parts of. Like you're just climbing on parts of this thing to get to the top of the Sandcrawler. But every step of the way, there is something that can kill you. And then the game throws like a lot of things at once that can kill you. And you also have to do this sort of like, the game doesn't tell you how to do this, but you have to do this special kind of jump to get up on certain platforms because they're too high. You actually have to press diagonally and jump, and you do this crazy flip and land on top of things, and then you can do these crazy jumps from that. It's a very acrobatic game, but it's also super
sliding and
super janky. Like incredibly janky. Dude, the jank in this game fucked me up more than anything else. Like,
you're still on the outside of the Sandcrawler?
Yes,
Jesus.
The outside of the Sandcrawler I'm gonna get there. The outside of the Sandcrawler took me about an hour to get through, just dying over and over again. The problem is there's some bad design here. Like you climb up, and if you fall back to the beginning. You're not falling to some. If you get lucky, maybe you get set back a little bit and you fall on something that's a little lower, but you still have to kind of start from the beginning. But if the worst case scenario, you start again, and everything respawns when you fall back down. So you've got to kill everything again all the way back up.
There's 2 things about the Star Wars games for the SNES games. One I'm pretty sure is a reason, and the other one is my unfounded. I mean, my founded, but I'm unsure of reason. The first one is this is at the height of the rental craze,
right?
Especially Blockbuster Video.
Yes,
and so it's been documented in more than one place that there were lots of development studios that were encouraged to make the games more difficult so the kids couldn't beat them in one rental. so that they'd have to rent them more than
That
once.
makes a lot of sense
to play them. And there's quite a few
man.
games that, like the Lion King, I think was one particularly. They were like, make it
game.
harder
That's hard.
so that
That's
the
a
kids
very
will
hard
rent
one.
it, because not as many people bought games back then, because you
Right.
could rent it for a couple days or a week and you could beat the game. So you saved like $50 or however much it was there too.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. That having
right,
and it's the perfect license to do it with, because you're probably going there to rent one of the movies as well.
You rent a movie,
right?
and then do the thing there.
Rent a Star Wars movie, literally. You know what I mean?
The second one was my personal experience, and I don't think that these guys had enough money to influence it. But I cannot tell you how many times I used my Super Nintendo Game Genie with Super Star Wars.
That's funny.
To give myself like the lightsaber in the first level, or like unlimited lives or something. I don't think Galoob had enough money to influence it at that point, but that.
Dude, I will say though, this game, like, you know, I'm talking about the Sandcrawler, MacBook. When I got inside the Sandcrawler,
I warned you.
I have PTSD now from this. I hear in my nightmares, I'm gonna hear forever.
I still have PTSD about that level.
You have to be good at geometry for this, because like
because sometimes there's just a hole. Like you jump off a platform here, and you don't know what's below you, so you expect maybe there's this, or the game's tricky, so maybe there's a platform or something. No, you needed to fall in that hole while hugging the right side of the wall and holding right, because as soon as there's a gap, you needed to go a little bit right to catch this platform to continue on, or you just die.
Yeah, you'll hit.
And it's like, that's just Simon said. It's just trial and error. There's no other way or Nintendo power.
I spent another hour on the inside of the Sandcrawler, and then I got to like this weird mini boss and then I just stopped. I was like, it was like 2 a.m, and I was like, I am sleepy, angry, frustrated. I'm gonna put this down.
All right, I'm gonna use my podcast powers.
Yeah.
Because I love, especially the 3 Super Nintendo Star Wars games.
Right.
I would love to see those. Those wouldn't even need to be remastered because they're gorgeous.
They look
but
good.
to have that get good rewind feature, like the Lion King and Aladdin ports did, I would absolutely love to have those, and to be able to just, instead of frustratingly go back to a checkpoint every time you fall in that hole, rewind 5. Those games would greatly from getting that little upgrade there.
Yeah. You know what my favorite part of the first Star Wars movie was? It's when Luke is fighting the giant scorpions. Oh wait, never mind, because that never fucking happened. But they're in this game. They're in this game. They're giant scorpions.
That's funny. Luke fights the giant scorpion.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
I mean,
then they end up making Empire Strikes Back and
they did
Return of the Jedi for Super Nintendo as well.
They get extra characters. You can play as Chewbacca. You can play as Han Solo. They get the ability to change characters in the future ones.
That's tight.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh man.
I do have one honorable mention real quick.
They continue to be just as hard.
I did play this morning a game that came out in 2005. It was Republic Commando.
Nice.
That game, if you haven't played it, I would check it out. It still stands up now.
This game was
very fun. Yeah, it's a tactical squad-based like shooter where you play as like basically clone trooper like special forces. I had a really good time with that one this morning. I played it for a couple of hours and then just kind of like put it down so I can get ready for this, but check it out.
Yeah, it plays like there was like a Tom Clancy game or something that was very similar to it in that same time, or something like that.
Yeah.
There's some other squad-based shooter that it was basically copying off of, but it was a great ass game.
Right.
Really good. Buck, what have you got for us this?
I've got a couple of Star Wars games that I really always enjoyed playing back in the day. Most importantly, I know we've covered this before, but I'll touch on it because I can't talk about Star Wars games without talking about KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic.
Nice. Good choice.
If you go back and look at BioWare's history before this, they made a lot of PC games, Neverwinter Nights and quite a few others, but the only other console game they had made was MDK2, that really weird first-person shooter, or third-person shooter game for the computers, for the PC, Mac rather. So KOTOR was their first console/PC RPG that they had made, and the first one in this Star Wars universe. So just the way that they knocked it out of the park. I mean, look at the legacy it created from that. But I don't have to gush about KOTOR, because if you haven't played it, go play Knights of the Old Republic or subscribe to our servers and put sci-fi and RPGs.
Yeah, we've had it as a retro zone before, and America was gushing about HK-47.
I could forever, you meatbag.
Great game.
Because that game is phenomenal. Back in the mid-90s, I was lucky enough to have an okay Windows 95 PC.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got very addicted to what I guess the kids call boomer shooters now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know.
So that I could play Doom and Doom 2. I absolutely loved Duke Nukem 3D. I loved to kick ass and chew bubblegum. But I also had Dark Forces for the PC.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which I don't even think I really bought because I was into Star Wars. It just was it was so beautiful. It was just it ran so cleanly. It was so much fun. The level designs were so great. And
the guns look really cool in this
yes,
game.
Right.
It was so much. It was a nice difference because none of those other games really had like laser blasters. And in this one, they looked just so smooth and so nice. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Raph.
No, I played that this morning for the first time ever.
Oh, nice.
And,
wow.
I always wanted to play it, but I never had a good computer. Yeah.
I still had to boot it into DOS back when I played it. I believe they put it out on the PS1 as well, too. So was it in the first one that you got the lightsaber or the second one? Near the end, you could like...
Oh, I don't know. I only got to the first level.
I would have never got to the end.
It's a really
Absolutely
hard game.
not. Yeah.
That's like... that's been so long, and I didn't play that one as much as I played Duke Nukem 3D. That's for sure.
It's cool. The version on Steam is like $6, and it actually like simulates the DOS like startup. Like it brings up a DOS window when it brings it up. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
That's super fun.
It's got an HD remaster recently.
It did.
Star Wars Dark Forces did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a
I'm
formula
going to play that now.
It's a formula that works
quite good.
perfectly, and just slapping the IP on it just worked. Like you said,
Yeah.
it was a boomer shooter that just, if you like them, it's fucking Star Wars one. That's good.
Right. Yeah, it had all those good bits
Yeah.
and pieces too. Because back then, when those kind of things come out, it wasn't always just slapping an IP on it. It was actually, had great level design and
There's like
great
parts
control.
where you gotta like break in a door, and it's using the Jedi language to like to do a little puzzle for you and shit like that.
So funny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring one that's not a video game because I've owned this since it came out. I linked you guys a video you can put up, Mac. It's a little loud, so watch the volume on that there too. But this is a board game that I bought it. This is how old it is. Kmart back in college, and unbeknownst to me, one of my best buddies who was away at college also bought a copy and played it. And then when he came back from college, he was like, "Dude, have you played Star Wars Epic Duels?"
Ooh.
No, yes, I have. I own a copy.
This is, I think, one of my favorite board games ever.
It is.
It may be one of
so
the best
good.
board games.
Oh, hold on. I'm watching a video.
It came out right after Episode 1, so it has like Jango Fett in it. It has Anakin and Padme. It has Darth Maul.
Yep.
It has it has Mace Windu, a bunch of those characters. Basically, whichever character you pick either has.
It also has the classic characters, by the way. It also
absolutely. It has all the
yeah.
original trilogy. It has the Emperor. It has Darth Vader. It has Luke and Leia. It has Han. It has Boba Fett. Boba Fett comes with Greedo because you get partners, and Jango Fett comes with what's the sniper chick's name? Gosh,
so yeah,
I just had it in my head.
Sam Wiesel.
Yes, thank you. And
so when you pick a card to play as, and most of the characters will either be a person with two weak
droids
helpers
or something. Yeah.
Or a person with another like major character from Star. It's like if you play, there's one
Luke
card
has
that's
Leia.
There's one card that's both Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia.
Right.
But then like there's a card that's Count Dooku with two of his like Episode 3
Battle
droids,
droids.
like the blue ones.
Yeah.
Cool.
Darth Maul comes with two of the Episode 1 like skinny droids. But then like Han Solo
troopers and
just
others.
comes with Chewbacca.
Hell
and
yeah.
he's got like way more health, and like the whole thing is a card based arena battler. So if you ever played Wiz War, it's almost kind of like Wiz War, except that it's not like a maze. Instead, it's like you get these two double-sided tiles, and they are each like settings from places in Star Wars. So it's like the room where Han Solo gets turned into kryptonite, the battle arena from Episode 2,
Genosha or something.
The landing platform, where Obi-Wan fights Jango Fett,
and the throne room,
the throne room from the original Star Wars. And it's up to, I think, 2v2 would make it to where everyone's. That's all.
The game is technically supposed to be 1v1, but you can make it as we've done 3v3 and 4v4. It doesn't matter.
You get it. Every team has a deck of cards that is custom to them.
Yeah, like literally, Luke and Leia have their own deck of cards.
Like the Luke and Leia deck, and it involves like attack and defense cards, pretty basic to like board game shit. But then also everyone has like unique cards. Like in the Han Solo Chewbacca deck, there is one card amongst the 25 or 30 or whatever that is in there that can only be used by Chewbacca, and it just does 30 damage. Like it just basically
it's like a thermal detonator. No,
or something. It's his crossbow or whatever.
Oh, the bowcaster.
The bowcaster. Right. But it's just like so. It's like Magic the Gathering in the sense that there's like the 7-hand card deck, yes, but then like doing the attacking, defending, and trying to pick which cards, because the attack and defend cards are one card.
Most of the time, yeah.
You can use them as either attack or defense. And so there's moments where you have to throw away a good attack because you need to block this attack by Darth Maul because he might then instance on top of his attack on like more attacks. Dude, it's one of the best board games ever. I can talk about it forever.
It's a shame that they have not reprinted it and that they never made any expansions for it. There's a lot of fan-made expansions for characters that didn't make it in, like Qui-Gon Jinn or C-3PO or stuff like that, but it really was a blast of a board game.
So cool.
This so actually playable.
I know we're not a board game podcast, but I can't talk about Star Wars without talking about. It's one of my favorite board games.
It's one of the best Star Wars games, in my opinion.
This reminds me of the Doom board game. It's kind of like this, like top down, almost like an RPG, like fighting sort of combat. Obviously, this is more arena based, but that's really cool.
Yeah,
I've never heard of this game.
It's so incredible. I wish we could get a copy, but I think it's expensive on eBay.
I'm very much so due for a re-release by Restoration Games or somebody.
So I'll wrap us up real quick. We grew up in Central Florida, and I've already talked about our arcade Game Jam episode, Disney Quest. Disney Quest is a place here in Central Florida that was like a 5-story arcade that had every arcade game that existed. I swear to God. And including 2 incredible Star Wars cabinets, the first of which is the Star Wars Trilogy Arcade.
Heck yeah.
If you've been to an arcade between 1998 and 2005, you probably saw this. It's like, and it probably made you go, whoa, what the fuck is that? Because it's huge. It's so fucking big. It's got this massively tall screen in front of you, and then you sit down in this fucking thing, and there's, like a pilot's joystick in front of you. And it's basically comprised of like 3 mini games, and it's like each one covers a section of the movie. So it's like the New Hope one is the space battle, Empire Strikes Back one is the Hoth battle, because of course, as we already mentioned, and then Return of the Jedi one is the speeder bikes on the Jawa planet. That's or whatever.
My favorite.
And then once you beat both of those, you get to do 2 like combat and you don't actually win them. If you could just keep paying money at the arcade, you just get through them.
The beauty part is the kids keep coughing up quarters.
Because the last 2 levels are the ones you really want to do, which is one of them is you fighting Boba Fett. And it's fucking awesome because it's him like jumping around in front of the screen in front of you, and he's shooting at you, and you have to use this like the joystick to adjust a cursor on screen and then swing a lightsaber to bounce his shots back at him.
Yeah.
And then finally, the last one is just straight up fucking fighting Darth Vader.
Darth Vader, yeah.
Just in the second Death Star. And it's so
Hell
cool.
yeah.
It is so
I remember seeing what do they call it when video games like are trying to get you to come play them, Buck, and they're playing like
attract mode.
The attract mode for that game is just absolutely the Darth Vader, like with the lightsaber. And he's huge. He's the whole screen big. He's like massively big. And it was just like, oh man, it's so cool.
What? I think you just unlocked a memory, because I think I did see this, because I never actually played it, but I remember seeing that.
It's very.
And I had no quarters on me.
I'm about to say it's very intimidating as far as arcade cabinets go, because it's huge and the screen is big. So if you're sucking at it, everyone gets to see how bad you're sucking, and you're, well, you holding up the Star Wars game, bro. You suck. But yeah, so I remember playing that one a lot at Disney Quest, and then the other one. That was made by Sega, by the way, and this one is also made by Sega. This was made in 1999, Star Wars Pod Racer.
Talk about a monster of a cabinet. At Disney Quest, we had the Pod Racer cabinets.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, man.
So you may have played this game for the N64, and you may be like, this game is not that good, and I'll agree with you. It's kind of hard to control, and I like the customization, but you're right. It's not that good.
I like that game a lot. Whatever. I mean, yeah.
I like it too. But the cabinets, I want to say, are 12 feet long. I mean, I'm not even kidding, because there is an actual like sculpted, molded pod racer chair that you sit in.
These ones in particular.
And the controllers, like the acceleration is literally the handles, because in that game, I don't know if you remember, but you turn by accelerating and decelerating your engines individually. And so in this game, you would decelerate. It's like a canoe, basically. So it
was so much easier to control in the arcade.
So much easier to control in the arcade. You've got a button for your shield and a button for a weapon, I believe, or something like that. But the screen is nice, is embedded deep far into the cabinet, and you are pulled back, seated, laying back on this fucking. I mean, I'll throw a picture up, but it's fucking awesome. I remember being a kid and being like this is the coolest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. Oh my fucking God.
And they were in that big open area next to the giant like Buzz Lightyear pinball. Or no, Mighty Ducks.
Which it needed to be, because you needed so much room to fucking put. And there was 2 of them. So there was you could play with each other locally. Oh, what a great experience. I think that's probably one of my favorite Star Wars gaming experiences, because I didn't really play a lot of the Star Wars games when I was growing up, because as we mentioned, they were too hard. One that I played a little bit of, this is my last one, just a little bit, got a recent re-release. Buck didn't realize this. The Star Wars Bounty Hunter game, LucasArts 2002, where you play as Jango Fett.
Oh, cool.
This was before Arkham Asylum games, and it had the same sort of vibe in the sense that you have like this bounty hunter vision that you can go into, and it's like kind of like a semi-open world level where you're looking for your bounty, almost like Hitman, and then when you find them, you can either take them dead or alive.
Bounty. Where are you, bounty?
And it's cool. You enter like Terminator vision, like it's all green, like and it like scans everybody in the room. But cool. This game had fucking amazing commercials when I was a kid, and then I remember going to Blockbuster and buying a used copy, and then I popped it in, and I didn't really like it, but I was like, I want to like it. Why is it so bad? But it got a remaster, and it's like $15 or something on Steam. So I'm like, ooh, whenever I get an extra $15, I'm going to get this bounty hunter and see if I can do it now as an adult.
That's so funny, because I think I had the same experience with that game. I thought it looked really cool, and then I rented it and I played it, and I didn't like it.
There was something about it where I was like, hey, this doesn't play like how it said it would in the commercial. I was like, or something like that, you know what I mean? But alas, hopefully I'll get to give it another try. That does it for our segment on Star Wars. May the 4th be with you. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll do our What Else You Got, and then get on out of here. We're back, and where it's time for our What Else You Got, our segment of the show at the very end, where we bring anything we want to the table, be it video game or otherwise. This week, I've got a game that I have played before, but got a new recent update. Cult of the Lamb Unholy Alliance came out. The multiplayer DLC for Cult of the Lamb, the free multiplayer DLC. It's so fucking good. I got this game when it first came out on Steam and loved it and played it for maybe 30 hours or something like this. And just kind of burnt out on it because other stuff came out, and it's kind of like, it's a lot. If you've never seen it, it's a Devolver Digital game where it's half Hades and half Stardew Valley. You have a cult basically that you raise, and then you house them and you feed them and you befriend them, and then you go out on adventures and you use the power that you get from them giving you their souls essentially to power yourself up in the Hades beat 'em up moments.
Disclaimer.
It looks super cute and dark at the same time.
It has super duper cutesy like Powerpuff Girls style animation, but then like it'll be like, today in this day in the game, because it's got a day and night cycle, it's like, I have this follower who's about to die, so instead I'm going to do this ritual where we sacrifice his soul to this Cthulhu entity to get extra experience points for the whatever. You do it, and then they all go,
like, this is what all of the mothers in the 90s were absolutely terrified was going to happen.
The
with
literal
video
satanic
games.
panic.
Right. It's so funny. But I have been, this is like in the arms of the angels to Stardew Valley, because Letitia, my girlfriend, and I played Stardew Valley for over 100 hours, and we just got to a part where it's just like, I can't do this anymore. The Ginger Island, all the extra stuff is just too much. I can't do it. And so this is our new Stardew Valley. We've been playing it for already like 15 hours or something. We just started a couple days ago, and she loves it. she likes the battling more than I thought she would like the life sim part or whatever. But no, she likes the battling. So
And when does the Sarah McLachlan DLC drop?
I plan to play a lot more of this in the oncoming future,
funny.
hopefully.
Hell yeah.
Raph, what have you got for us this week?
I got two things. Actually, one is Star Wars related. I was inspired, and this morning I actually bought Knights of the Old Republic on the Switch, and I'm gonna finally finish this game. But it looks really good on the Switch too. I'm surprised by that. I was like, oh shit, this looks actually really nice. Just that just to touch on that. But the big thing that I did this week that we've talked about it, and we may or may not talk about it in the future too. I finally got to play Hunt Showdown. And I got to play
Don't
it
spoil
with
too much because I think
I got to play with my co-hosts, and it was a hell of a good time. We'll talk about it more maybe in the future, but dude, that
you didn't screen cap that match.
That game is a banger. I love it. It's really good.
Did you record that match?
I didn't record it. No, I didn't record it.
Don't worry, we'll have another one in like another 20 hours.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I definitely want to play it again. It was a lot of fun, man. Hunt is a good ass game.
Yeah, it
looked. What else?
Extremely stressful, but it was another one of those things where I was just like, this is something I want to like. I want to be good at, like, because. When you guys were whooping at, you know what I'm saying, like, because there's a lot involved in it, but it's so cool. Everything about it is so cool. Like,
Matt, not to get too deep into it, because I do want to, like, hopefully if we do an episode on it, we can talk about it a little bit more. But as someone who is not good at it, I'm still having a blast. Even if I die every single run, it's still an experience to be had.
Yes.
The tension is really where it's at. It's the sitting there and listening to like nothing, and then all of a sudden you hear someone's footsteps crunching up behind you.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit. You turn around and what happens?
Scary something.
And you hope that 1 out of 10 times you win whatever ensues after that.
All the monsters are so scary too. I don't know.
The monsters are very scary, yeah.
All right, Buck, what else have you got for us this week?
I've also been playing a lot of Hunt. I had something that I didn't buy it, thankfully, but it's also pretty newsworthy. But I wanted to bring it up anyway.
Fair.
The Nintendo World Championship cart, the gold cart, the graded 4.0 with no label cart, golden auctions sold last week, and the final gavel price. $207,400.
Yo.
I feel like that's more money than I'm probably ever gonna have at once in my entire life.
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
First, I mean, that's astronomical, obviously, but as collectors with the lesser items, it's still cool to see those things going up, even if it's just a crazy.
Right. That's almost
like that.
$250,000.
That was my guess. My guess was $250,000. So I wasn't far off, because it's been almost a decade since one was publicly auctioned, and it was one that was in a little bit better shape, and I think it sold for like 125 or so, 120, something like that.
Yeah.
But with the way all this stuff has been, I was pretty sure it was going to be higher.
At least 200,000. Wow, that's crazy.
Rising tides raises all ships. Even the awareness of the video game auction makes, I'd imagine, all retro games just be a little bit.
Look at that Deadpool game. I don't remember if I brought that up in a previous episode, but there's a Deadpool game for the PS3. It's okay. Nolan North does Deadpool's voice. Yeah, it's a kind of game like that. But 2 months ago, you could get it for normal price, like $15-20, and now they're going for over $100. I really hope that settles a bit, but that's a supply and demand thing. They didn't make a lot of it, and when it became popular because Deadpool became so popular again.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a collector thing. I even talk about Pokemon Stadium today. That's up to, I think, about $25 on average, give or take.
Really?
Maybe a little bit more. And I'm sure if you go to your local game shop, they're going to be hawking it for more because it's Pokemon games. So when you can get games like that with our service, it's a pretty big boon for you.
Man, as a collector,
they really will charge you $50. They'll charge you $50 for a classic Pokemon game at a game shop.
There's like some specific games that for some reason, and I understand it, they're running a business too. I'm running a business, but there's specific retro games that no matter what the value is kind of at, Pokemon games, Mario Brothers 3, there's like particular games that's like Mario Brothers 3 is like, even now it really only goes for normally like $15-20, give or take. a high end 20ish, and you could go to a retro game store tomorrow and probably find one for 40 or 50 because
People
it's
will
a great
buy it.
game.
They'll see it and go
right.
like, "Oh, I remember that." I don't know.
I mean, they're sought after. People want them, of course. That makes
It
sense.
is
And they're
hard
quality
when
games too.
it is hard when there's the only way to gauge it is based on precedent of sales.
Right. Okay.
There's nothing that says this MSRP is for $29.99. That's how much it goes for.
Right.
Right.
You can buy it for how much you want, bud.
Right.
Hey, listen, that's our show. That does it for today's episode on Star Wars. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Do us a huge favor. Will you please like this video? Pretty easy if you watched it. And subscribe if you aren't. And if you are just listening to this, you can head over to our Instagram at the Game Treasure Podcast to see our faces in small doses. I cut together little shorts and post them on there. Finally, we would like you to reach out to us via email, please, with questions that you would like for us to answer on air. We're trying to accumulate those for a special grab bag episode. That would be super fun. And you can find links to all that stuff at our linktree /TheGTP. We would like to thank Crunkwitch for the use of our theme song, Clash of the Droids. You can find them on Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere you can find music on the internet for the most part. And of course, we would like to thank RetroGameTreasure.com, owned and operated by the Megabuck himself. You know what? I'm not going to do the rant. I'm just going to explain how this works. I was inspired by a Nikki Jakey ad. Okay, listen. Video game collecting can be hard. This is what it looks like. It looks like going to a game store that's near your town, or I should say reasonably within distance of your house. Do you have one? Do you know where one is? Is it any good? Have you been there? You haven't been there before, have you? Who runs it? How do they price the games? It's kind of hard, right? Oh, you know where else you could go? You could go to a flea market outside. What state do you live in? You live in Florida, maybe. You live in California, maybe. You live in Texas, maybe. You live in Utah, maybe. You know where a flea market is by you? When was the last time you went to a flea market? I just want to play Crash Bandicoot, but I don't want to do any of the things that I just said. How can I get game? I have a PlayStation 1 that I've had since I was in college because I'm bad at throwing away things because I'm American. But I don't have any of the games. I only have one game. How do I get more games for the PlayStation 1? It's so easy. You go to www.retrogametreasure.com because it's a subscription service that sends you boxes of games for those video game systems that you've had since college, right? So that GameCube that you have, and you have that freeloader because you wanted to play Zoid so badly because that show whoops ass so hard, and you're like, are there other Japanese GameCube games that I can get that I can use on my freeloader? And the answer is yes. And the Japanese ones are actually usually on the cheaper side. So you build your profile at retrogametreasure.com. You tell them what game consoles you have. You can tell them what game genres and types that you like. Buck mentioned earlier, you can just get Pokemon games without going to the flea market. Cannot stress this enough. It takes all of the thinking out of shopping for retro games. You can just sit at home and have them brought to you by the angel that is the postman. RetroGameTreasure.com has been obsessed with video games since 1985. Buck, do you have a list of new subscribers for me this week?
My postman's name is Pete. We're on a first name basis. New subscribers this week: Ricardo Diaz, Brian Chavez, Pedro Vega, and Steve Bjarnson.
Thank you guys so much for subscribing. It means a lot. My name is Max Stein, and I love the Game Treasure Podcast. It's so bad.
It's so bad.